Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dale Petrosky, and it's my privilege to serve as CEO of the Dallas Regional Chamber. Welcome to our virtual town hall series. We call it Confronting COVID-19, Keeping Businesses Running in the Dallas region. And we're presenting today in partnership with the Dallas Morning News. So glad you're with us. The COVID-19 crisis that's gripped the world is impacting us in many ways. We never would have imagined just a few weeks ago. And at the Dallas Regional Chamber, we quickly reorganized our team to serve our members and our businesses of all sizes throughout the region. And this virtual town hall series is just one aspect of our new robust communications efforts on our website. We hope you'll visit that website, dallaschamber.org, to explore news, resources, connecting displaced workers to job openings. We update it every day. And we've also got a special section on the site devoted to small business resources. Today, we're going to focus on the CARES Act, the $2 trillion relief package passed by Congress and signed into law by the President last month. The legislation is focused on aiding individuals, small businesses, big corporations, state and local governments, public health, education, and federal safety net programs. To dive deeply into this historic relief package, we're thrilled to welcome our friend, the senior United States Senator from Texas, John Cornyn. Senator, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dale.
Also want to recognize Elsie Collins, the District Director of the Small Business Administration in North Texas, and so glad to have you with us as well, Elsie. So let's talk today about the format. The Senator will share some remarks, and then he'll answer some of your questions, and then Elsie will share her insights and advice for small business owners. You can use the chat function to send your questions to our virtual town hall moderator. And finally, Grant Moise, the publisher of the Dallas Morning News, will wrap up the conversation. The genesis of this conversation came in a call that I had with Grant a few weeks ago. Grant and I talked about how we could together help small businesses through this crisis. We're also thrilled to be partnering with several other important chambers in our area, our friends at the Dallas Black Chamber, the Greater Hispanic Chamber, the LGBT Chamber, and the Asian Chamber of Texas. And now it's my honor to introduce Senator John Cornyn. Since 2002, the Senator has represented the citizens of Texas in the United States Senate. He sits on the Finance, Intelligence, and Judiciary Committees. Prior to being elected to the Senate, he was a district judge, a member of the Texas Supreme Court, and our state's Attorney General. Senator, we are so grateful you're with us today. I'm going to turn things over to you.
Thank you, Dale. And I appreciate the opportunity to join all of you on this call. And thanks to the Dallas Regional Chamber for getting us all together because there's a lot of information to share about the resources available in response to the coronavirus. North Texas has been one of the hardest hit in our state, with the greatest concentration of cases in Dallas County, which is more than 1,000 as we speak. In response, Congress has passed 3 bills to help bolster resources for our healthcare providers and support workers and businesses who've been impacted by the economic fallout. As Dale mentioned to you, one of those, the biggest one, was something called the CARES Act, which was signed by the President into law at the end of March. If you told me a month ago, 2 months ago, that I would have voted for a $2.2 trillion piece of legislation and it would be supported by unanimous vote in the United States Senate, I would not have believed you. But certainly that's the case, and thank goodness for that. So the first part, healthcare, it provides $100 billion to our hospitals. I know in talking to many of our hospitals, they've had to forego elective surgery during this period of time in order to provide space and needed for the surge in patients, potential surge in patients as a result of the coronavirus. And so this is to help keep them, keep their doors open. And of course, not only in urban areas like North Texas, but in some rural parts of the state, this is essential. We know one of the things that we don't have enough of, or did not have enough of at the beginning, were things like masks, gloves, and other personal protective equipment. That was one of the first things that Governor Abbott mentioned to me when I talked to him about this initially. He also mentioned testing. Now our testing is ramped up considerably. I think we're up to around 70,000 people tested, and about 10%, or a little bit under 10% of those with positive outcomes. So they can be either directed to stay at home and under the watchful eye of their friends and family, or if necessary, go to the hospital for additional treatment. We also tried to cut this red tape when it came to things like clinical trials for therapeutics that may work, and we've read and heard a lot about that, as well as an eventual vaccine, which will probably be down the road, hopefully no later than September timeframe. We also recognize that people working in hospitality and the service industry are going to be the ones most immediately and directly hit because of the anti-congestion orders by the mayors, the judges, and the governor. And so for those individuals who work by the hour and live paycheck to paycheck, we thought it was important to get some money out the door as soon as we could. So we are sending, the Treasury is sending in the form of direct financial assistance. It should be direct deposited in your bank account if you filed a 2019 tax return. And you make up to $150,000, a family of four can expect to receive up to $3,400. We thought that was important because even though we're all sheltering in place and exercising good hygiene and personal distancing, social distancing, people need money to live, and so we thought that was important. But as you've also seen, there's been really an unprecedented hit at the Texas Workforce Commission on applications for unemployment insurance. We've enhanced the eligibility and the benefits of that on a temporary basis. We've tried to make sure that people who had jobs and lost them through no fault of their own could apply for those benefits. And like I said, we have another $600 a week on top of that, which is the federal portion, which was good at least for the next 4 months. So we need to give people the resources they need until the smoke clears. I was just talking to one of my friends who does business in North Texas and really around the state and around the country, but talking about how sad it is that employers through no fault of their own are having to lay a lot of people off. So that direct financial assistance and the unemployment insurance benefits hopefully will help bridge this gap for many people. Well, let's talk about small businesses. Obviously, that's what the Chamber is all about. And we know that it's important for these small businesses who depend on income coming in the front door to pay their expenses, which will always be with them, to have some relief as well. So we created a new program called the Paycheck Protection Program and established $350 billion that will be then administered by SBA certified lenders through your local banks and credit unions. It provides up to 8 weeks of cash flow assistance to small businesses. These are low interest loans. I think they're at 1%. They can be used to cover everything from payroll to supply chain disruptions to rent. And they provide up to 250% of your overhead for a period of 2 months. At the end of that time, if employers maintain their payroll until June, then payroll, rent, and utility payments covered by the loan can be completely forgiven. So these could actually end up turning into grants, the whole purpose of which is to keep businesses connected to their employees so that when we defeat this virus, as we will, that we'll come out of this ready to go back to work. So as I said, in applying for these loans, and the first applications were received last Friday, as you can imagine, again, with so much going on, there's been continual updates and guidance from Treasury and the SBA. But as I said, they're available through all SBA certified lenders. The application, they begin receiving applications on Friday. And I've heard that banks will need a little more time and a little more guidance to get this up and running like we anticipated. due to the overwhelming number of applications. So this is a completely new system. We tried to minimize the bureaucracy as much as possible, but there's a learning curve for everyone. But I encourage you to apply sooner rather than later. There's a question is it going to be first come, first served? What happens if the fund runs out of money? Well, that's, I'm sure, something we're going to be interested in monitoring and taking a look at. The goal is to get through this crisis together, and right now we're not pinching pennies, so to speak. So please continue to give us feedback through the chamber or individually. So my staff has been in touch with many of you already about the process to apply for these loans, and Elsie Collins, I know, is on this call, so she can answer some of your questions as well. Many of you know Colin McLaughlin in my Dallas office, and I encourage you to reach out to him if he or I or anybody else on my team can be of assistance. But let me just stop there, Dale, and say thank you to you and to the Dallas Regional Chamber for making this call possible. I'm happy to answer or dodge a few questions, as the case may be, so fire away.
Well, Senator, thank you for that great overview of and putting it in simple terms so that we can understand what the buckets are and how people can apply for these and what's available to them. Now, Congress has passed 3 coronavirus relief bills, and that's to help businesses stay afloat. But we know no bill is perfect. What would you like to see in the next coronavirus bill, if there is one?
Well, I have no doubt there'll continue to be a need for Congress to respond. I think initially my hope is that we focus on the implementation of what we've already done, because this is unprecedented both in the size and the dollar amount of the money that we are spending. And we know there's going to be some glitches, some unintended consequences, and some gaps in coverage. I've already heard a number of concerns expressed, but we've also been able to get some further refinement in the guidance being provided both by Treasury and SBA in the implementation of this program. I might want to mention to you as well that in talking to Mayor Johnson and the county judges and others around the state, there was a lot of interest in getting some additional financial relief for the state and our major cities and counties. And so Texas will receive $11.2 billion out of a $150 billion fund. It's based on population to make it fair. And cities and counties over 500,000 can apply directly, and that will then be deducted from the state's allotment. So those are other things that we're doing with this bill. And like I said, we can do some other things. I'm all for it. Everybody likes to talk about infrastructure, but people never want to talk about how to pay for it. And if we could do that, that would be terrific. I also know that doing something about on a bipartisan basis about out-of-pocket expenses for pharmaceutical costs is another area where it seemed like we were heading down a constructive path. Maybe we can get some of that stuff done too. But first, we need to put out the fire, and we need to get people back to work.
Senator, just so you know, the Dallas Regional Chamber is sort of aggregating information on what's happened to various industries and various companies in North Texas. So when the dust settles, we have that information for you and the governor and so forth. So
that's very, very helpful. Thank you.
Okay. What's the timing of the SBA loan applications, and when can people expect to start receiving loans?
Well, as I said, last Friday was the first day applications could be filed. I would encourage all of you who have a current relationship with an SBA certified lender to go to them, because they've been asking on behalf of the banks and credit unions, how do we make this thing work? And they would understand your individual needs and circumstances perhaps better than anybody else other than you. And so the goal is, and I know that goal, after trying to implement this thing beginning last Friday, few refinements being made, hopefully making it more flexible. Secretary Mnuchin has told us that if he's going to interpret this congressional intent with the maximum amount of flexibility that the law allows. But some of the lenders have been getting those applications since Friday, and I'm told that they are hopeful of a same day turnaround. This is not done through the SBA per se, but through an SBA certified lender, so it's a new program. And so Secretary Mnuchin said he also expects Texans to see recovery checks direct deposited in their accounts within 2 weeks. So thank you for the question, and I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you, Senator. You know, two of our biggest companies here, Southwest Airlines and American Airlines, have really been hit by this this challenging time. What relief does the CARES Act provide the aviation industry?
Well, I've spent a fair amount of quality time with our friends at Southwest and American to try to come up with some solution that meets their needs. Obviously, through no fault of their own, their ridership has dropped to almost zero, and people concerned about social distancing guidelines and the like. We knew that airlines were going to be critical to our recovery, and so we needed to do everything we could to throw them a lifeline so that they could maintain their relationship with their employees as much as possible and be ready to fly when the virus is subdued. So the bill provides $32 billion in payroll assistance grants for airlines. These are very similar to the small business grants that I mentioned earlier, but this is airline specific. It provides pandemic relief for aviation workers through financial assistance for the exclusive use of employee wages, salaries, and benefits for up to $25 billion for passenger air carriers and up to $4 billion for cargo air carriers and up to $3 billion for airline contractors. We've also suspended certain commercial aviation excise taxes applied to travelers, known as the ticket tax, property, the cargo tax, and aviation fuel. So those are just some of the things we've done, recognizing the importance of the airlines to the Texas and the national economy, as well as it's a huge employer, and we need to take care of our folks who, again, through no fault of their own, find themselves furloughed.
Well, thank you for going to bat for our airlines. I mean, we really need them. They are big employers in this area. And of course, American's the largest airline in the world, and Southwest is the largest domestic airline. So that we are particularly hard hit in North Texas because of what's happened to the airline industry.
Right.
You mentioned legislation passed by Congress to help families and checks being deposited directly into folks' accounts. Can you go over that again for us? I think it's important for folks to know what they can expect.
Well, again, the person I think about and have the greatest empathy for, even though there are a lot of victims who through no fault of their own find themselves out of a job or in tough financial circumstances, are the people that work in our restaurants and our bars and our folks who work by the hour. And when the business is shut down, they've got no income and they've got to find some way to pay for the necessities of life. So we appropriated money that would provide up to $1,200 per person. That's the maximum amount for this interim grant. And if you're a family of four making up to $150,000, you could get as much as $3,400. The thought is this would be something that would hopefully tide people over for a week or two until they can apply for unemployment insurance. We've also expanded the categories of individuals who could get access to unemployment insurance coverage and provided more of a federal backstop there. But this is the cash that I think it needs to be in people's hands. Secretary Mnuchin said 2 weeks, but that's certainly would be my goal to make sure it gets in their hands quickly.
Fantastic. And so, Senator, a lot of our members have questions about the technical requirements tied to SBA loans, specifically technical requirements tied to the loan forgiveness program. What's the best way for each business to figure out the specifics in relation to their own individual situation?
Well, this has been a work in progress and operating at warp speed. And Elsie, I'm sure, who's on the call, can provide some assistance there in terms of technical guidance. I would also encourage you, because we've been talking to a lot of like the Texas Bankers Association and their national counterpart. And of course, you can imagine they're advising all their members on the best practice and the latest information. So I still believe that the best thing to do is to reach out to your local financial institution with whom you already have an existing relationship. They're likely to have the latest information about how they can help you because, of course, they're in the business of lending money, and they'd like to be able to do that, and we'd like for them to be able to do that. But we also included $275 million for counseling, training, and related assistance to small businesses through grants to SBA resource partners, including small business development centers. So I would look to them for targeted guidance on how you can take advantage of all the resources that are available.
Well, thank you, Senator, and thank you for all the great information that you've shared with us today, and for all you're doing to help us get through this. It's a tough time, but you're a great leader for us, and we do appreciate everything you're doing.
Well, thank you. We'll do it together.
Okay,
God bless.
Thank you, Senator. Okay, you get off to your next meeting now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that was great. I'm very happy now to introduce you to Elsie Collins, who for the past 6 years has served as the Deputy District Director for the Small Business Administration. She's been with the SBA for over 24 years. She's held a variety of roles, and today we'll speak about the CARES Act, as well as the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program in the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. So welcome, Elsie.
All right. First of all, I want to take an opportunity to thank Senator Cornyn and his staff for the job that they're doing. They've been very, very responsive to the community. And so on behalf of our director, Herb Austin, we want to thank the Senator and his staff for how they're reaching out to the community and supporting the small business community. Thank you to the Chamber for allowing us an opportunity to talk about the SBA. We do realize that the small businesses are key to our economy, so we want to do everything within our power to make sure that they get the information that they need to get the SBA loans and the Paycheck protection loans that are actually available out there. The one thing that I do want to iterate what's most important is the SBA website. As soon as the information becomes available, we are trying to post it to the SBA website, www.sba.gov. The information on the Economic Injury Program, as well as the Paycheck Protection Program, which is the PPP. It is a fluid situation in terms of it's a new program, so as new guidance is provided, then we're making sure that we actually get that posted on the website. The first thing that I just really want to make sure that all the small businesses know that when it comes to the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which is the EIDL, that's the application that goes directly to SBA. But for the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP loans, that is the application that goes directly to the lender. So we've had that's one of the most frequent calls that we get is I've downloaded the application for the PPP, what do I do with it? That application needs to go directly to your lender for processing of that loan. So most lenders, and on the SBA website also, on the DFW website, and I'll make sure I'll get this to the Dallas Regional Chamber, is that we have a list of all of the lenders that have done SBA loans last year for fiscal year 2019, and we post that, and that's already on the local website that shows you every lender that has actually made loans in the Dallas-Fort Worth district area all of last year, and that will help. But the primary source should be their lender, that they would go directly to their lender to see if they are processing the PPP loans. There are existing lenders in place that are familiar with the SBA loan product, and they can get their loan from them. There are also other lenders now that are trying to become a lender to process the PPP loans. SBA is working diligently to get new lenders signed up. We've established internally an email and phone number for the new lenders to get signed up. So ultimately, not only just the current lenders that are actually making SBA loans, but additional lenders are being added. And SBA is working as fast as we possibly can to get new lenders signed up, but we just want to make sure that we are still making sure for security reasons that we follow all the necessary protocols. Some of the calls that we're getting that has to do with some small business owners have went to their lenders, and their lenders are saying that, hey, we can't provide it because you don't have this account or something like that. And so some of that information has come back to us, and so we're trying to make sure that we let the business owners know that we really don't have control over what those lenders internally in terms of which bar or how they set their standards. But we do have a list of all of the lenders that are offering the loans. Some lenders, we did have one lender that indicated that regardless of whether they have an existing business relation with us or not, we're going to be able to process that loan. So we're going to try to continue to post as much information as we possibly can on the SBA website so that the small business owners will be able to get that information. Also, as far as early on in the processing of the economic injury disaster loans, due to the loan volume, there were some issues in terms of getting to the 1-800, the customer service number. We beefed up that staff that's handling all the calls nationally, so hopefully that is not continuing to be a problem. But there is a significant amount of volume. Emails that are sent to SBA or phone calls, we're trying to respond to them as quickly as we possibly can. So we do have the website that's set up, and then we also have a local email box that we're actually receiving correspondence and trying to respond as quickly as we possibly can. But I did want to take a break, and in the event you have a question for me. But the SBA district office here, we are open, and we are responding to the calls that are coming in and the email correspondence that are coming into the district.
Well, thank you, Elsie. I don't know, other than our healthcare workers, I don't know anybody more busy than you are these days, as everybody's trying to learn about SBA loans and all that you have to offer. What procedures do businesses need to take to get relief funding as quickly as possible? How soon can they expect reimbursement from the SBA?
The first thing, as soon as possible, if they haven't, they need to download that application, which is the PPP application, which is found on the SBA website. That's the first order of business, and get that completed and submitted as soon as possible. And get it to their lender, and the lender will begin to process it. I do know that on Friday, there's a significant amount of loans were submitted. The lenders were working on Friday, Saturday, and some on Sunday, because we were still getting correspondence on Sunday that they're trying to process those loans. So the process, once they complete that application, is to get it to that lender, and they're trying to get it out as soon as possible. But that is going to be the fastest process for that for the PPP loan. Okay,
thank you. Let's talk about independent consultants and contractors, maybe who don't have employees. And what benefits are available to them?
Well, with the independent contractors, they have expenses to pay just like the non-independent contractors. So the PPP loans and the economic injury disaster loans are open to the independent contractors as well. They'll follow the same process. They'll fill out the application. But for the independent contractors and the sole proprietorships, as far as the PPP loans, they'll begin to take their applications on April 10th. April 10th is when the applications for the independent contractors and the self-employed individuals, that's when they can actually begin to apply.
Okay, good.
But the process is the same in terms of what will be covered. They have some of the same expenses as far as utility expenses, so they will consider that.
Okay, good. Thank you. Are private banks going to be contacting applicants, or is the SBA going to give specific instructions?
As far as the banks contacting their business owners, I'm not really sure if each bank is contacting all their businesses. It's probably the reverse, that the small business owners should contact their bank directly. I would go to the SBA website first, download the application, and get the application over to their banks. And some of the lenders have already set up information on their website that explains, here's what the process is, here are the different steps, here's what you do with your application, submit it to the portal that they actually have. But I've checked out a couple of the websites, and they do have some guidance, but they were waiting on additional guidance from SBA before they actually got started. So this week, I believe that you'll see more activity, more responses coming from the lenders regarding the PPP loans.
Okay, great. Thank you. So if renters withhold rental payments, property owners probably going to be unable to pay their mortgages. So some level of forbearance will be required while shelter-in-place orders keep businesses shuttered. With April rent due this week to both commercial and residential landlords, what provisions are being considered to maintain liquidity throughout the system?
I probably can't really speak to that one there yet, but I do know that not for the business as far as commercial lenders or the lenders or the property owners that, for example, let's take the Economic Injury Disaster Program, and this is a very good example. Under the Economic Injury Disaster Program, a lender that has lost rents and has been impacted because of COVID-19 is eligible under that program. So it would be the same process. They still have their payments that have to be made, so they would need to make application as well. I think, and then additional, of course, modifications to the PPP are being made, but they still all need to make application because it's that same process. They still have mortgages, expenses that actually have to be paid, and expenses, and the small and through the EIDL program, Economic Injury Program, for sure, that is covered. That is an eligible use of the proceeds.
Gotcha. Okay, great. We've got a couple more minutes. Grant, do you have any questions for Elsie?
Not from our end, Dale. No additional questions, but I sure do appreciate this is extremely helpful.
Yeah. Before I turn things over to you, Grant, I'd just like to say thank you again to Senator Cornyn. Thank you, Elsie. You're a wealth of information. Thanks again to our fellow chambers, the Dallas Black Chamber, Harrison Blair, the Greater Dallas Hispanic Chamber, Rick Ortiz, the LGBT Chamber, Tony Vetta, and Neil at the Asian Chamber of Texas. Thank you for making this available to your memberships as well. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the publisher of the Dallas Morning News, Grant Moise.
Thanks, Dale. Also to Elsie, thank you so much, and for both you and Senator Cornyn, I appreciate it. You all have important jobs at any time, but I'd say they've probably never been more important as they are right now. So we thank you on behalf of the Dallas Morning News and the Chamber. I think most importantly, probably what I can do in closing is I want to reiterate some of the key resources that are available to everyone who's taken the time today to jump on. Elsie had mentioned the website www.sba.gov. I think that is important. Also, the Chamber, as Dale mentioned, is updating their COVID resources at dallaschamber.org. And also their job board, where they're matching displaced workers with jobs, is at sayyestodallas.com. We at the Dallas Morning News have just been humbled. We had about 15 million people just in the past month coming to our website so that you all can stay updated with the latest news and information. Obviously, we're at www.dallasnews.com. But we also have a newsletter that is going out daily so that people can join. This is completely free at join.dallasnews.com/newsletter. And also, we are continuing to provide all of our content that is related to public health and safety from the coronavirus pandemic, free to everyone out there. Obviously, it's just such an important time. We believe we need people to stay informed. That's why especially getting experts like Elsie and Senator Cornyn on today were so important. And Dale, thank you for having us be involved. And I think that adjourns our session for today. So thank you most importantly for all of you joining. I also do know that there will be the same information that I just stated is going to come out from the chamber, what, Dale, in the next about 24 hours? Is that about right?
Yes, we'll put it up on the website within the next 24 hours.
Great. Thank you, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. We greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you all. Thanks, Grant. Thanks, Elsie.